look, we went to NATO. I didn't ask very strongly. I just said, hey, if you want to help, great. No, 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 we will not help. I said, that's all right. You don't want to help? Because I've always said NATO's a paper tiger. See, NATO's a paper tiger. Putin's not afraid of NATO, but I'm very disappointed in NATO, very. I think that NATO, I think it's a mark on NATO that will never disappear in my mind.
Trump's latest on-air outbursts appear to be rattling allies, with France stepping forward to warn against any strikes on civilian infrastructure in Iran. As Trump vents frustration with NATO's lack of support, France's stance underscores how even key US partners seem uneasy about where Washington's war planning could be heading. France's warning lands at a sensitive moment, especially as reports say US war planners are revising target lists in ways that could widen the scope of strikes. The Pentagon is reportedly expanding its list of potential Iranian targets to include additional sites tied to the country's war support infrastructure. According to the claim, US planners could go beyond purely military installations and consider facilities that supply fuel and electricity to both civilian and military networks. Politico reported on April 7, citing officials, that American war planners were revising the target list amid the escalating confrontation. That reported shift could also help provide legal cover if the administration later faces accusations of war crimes over strikes on infrastructure. Officials cited in the report argued that the dual-use nature of such facilities could allow them to be framed as legitimate military targets. France, a US ally, said on April 7 that it opposes any strikes on civilian infrastructure in Iran. French Foreign Minister Jean-Noël Barrot warned that such action would risk further escalation and could trigger a new cycle of retaliation. Barrot made those remarks to France Info, according to reporting cited by Iran International and other outlets. Jean-Noël Barrot said, and I quote, "We oppose any strike on civilian infrastructure. Such strikes would open a new phase of escalation and reprisals which would worsen an already concerning situation. The risk is that we see a regional conflagration without limits." France's role was to limit the consequences of the conflict and support mediation efforts led by countries in the region. "This is a war we did not choose and whose consequences we are managing." Unquote. His comments came ahead of President Donald Trump's latest deadline for Iran to make a deal and reopen the Strait of Hormuz. Trump gave Iran until 8 p.m. Eastern Time on April 7 to strike a deal and open the strait. Otherwise, Trump threatened to destroy Iran in just 4 hours and blast its power plants. Earlier, Trump had made an expletive-laden online threat telling Iran to back off. In that warning, Trump wrote, "Open the strait, you crazy or you'll be living in hell." During a briefing on April 6, Trump was heard slamming NATO allies for refusing to join the Iran war effort.
All I want to see is I want to have a safe world, and you're not going to have a safe world. Israel will be gone, the Middle East will be gone, and then they're coming for Europe. And I have to tell you, I'm very disappointed in NATO, very. I think that NATO, I think it's a mark on NATO that will never disappear in my mind. You know, they're coming to see me on Wednesday. They're going to say, oh, we'll do this, we'll do that. Now they all of a sudden want to send things, you know. But they said it loud and clear at the beginning. When I spoke to UK of all, I would have said they would have been the first because they're the oldest. And I say, yeah, I'd love to have a little help. He said, no, sir, we'd rather wait till you win. I said, I don't need help after we win. They have 2 old broken aircraft carriers, barely work. I said, I guess we can use them. Who the hell knows? I called the general. He didn't even want them. He said, we don't really need them. We got the SS Abraham Lincoln, sir. We don't need them. You know, we have, in terms of technology, we had one day 101 missiles going at 2,700 miles an hour, aimed at the Abraham Lincoln. 101 missiles. Out of 101 missiles, 101 missiles were shot down. Unbelievable technology. 10 years ago, 5 years ago, I don't know if that would have been possible. But 10 years ago, that wouldn't have been possible. 101 missiles heading to a ship that's not that far off the coast. And out of the 101 missiles, we shot down all 101. We have weaponry. The Patriots are unbelievable. We have weaponry That's unbelievable, yeah.
You voiced your displeasure with NATO in the past. Is there a danger to the U.S. not being the de facto of the leader of the alliance, and then other powers within the alliance then getting the decision making when it comes to wars and nuclear weapons?
No, it's not a danger. Look, we went to NATO. I didn't ask very strongly. I just said, hey, if you want to help, great. No, we will not help. I said, that's all right. You don't want to help? Because I've always said NATO's a paper tiger. See, NATO's a paper tiger. Putin's not afraid of NATO. Putin's afraid of us, very afraid of us. And he's explained it to me a lot of times. I got to know him very well. I know him very well. NATO's a paper tiger. NATO is us. And when we needed them, we didn't need them, by the way. We didn't need them, obviously, because they haven't helped at all. Just the opposite. They've actually gone out of their way not to help. They didn't even want to give us landing strips. Think of it. And it's not just NATO. You know who else didn't help us? South Korea didn't help us. You know who else didn't help us? Australia didn't help us. You know who else didn't help us? Japan. We've got 50,000 soldiers in Japan to protect them from North Korea. We have 45,000 soldiers in South Korea to protect us from Kim Jong-un, who I get along with very well, as you know. Do you notice he said very nice things about me? He used to call Joe Biden a mentally retarded person, okay? So don't tell me about your stuff. Joe Biden, he said he's a mentally retarded person. He was so nasty to Joe Biden. It was terrible. But to me, he likes Trump. And do you notice how nice things are with North Korea? It's very nice. But we have 45,000 people, soldiers, in harm's way, right next to Kim Jong-un with a lot of nuclear weapons. 45, which should have never happened if a certain president, I'm not going to mention this president because I happen to like him, believe it or not, but if a certain president did his job, Kim Jong-un would not have nuclear weapons right now. But they were all afraid to do their job properly. But just to conclude and just to finish, Japan didn't help us, Australia didn't help us, South Korea didn't help us, and then you get to NATO, NATO didn't help us. There were some countries that did. Now, countries that have been good, now you could also say they're got to be a little bit more involved because they're in the territory, but Saudi Arabia has been excellent, Qatar has been excellent, UAE has been excellent, Bahrain, Kuwait. I mean, Kuwait did shoot down 3 of our planes. The only planes, really, that we lost with friendly fire, they call it. I call it unfriendly fire. They unfortunately didn't know how to use our great Patriots. The pilot said, what kind of a missile's coming at us? Patriot. Boom, they got out because they know a Patriot never misses. So they had beautiful Patriots. There were planes heading in their direction. Unfortunately, they decided to shoot those planes. They were our planes. So, NATO is a paper tiger. Now, he's coming to see me on Wednesday, as you know. He's a wonderful guy. Secretary General is great. And Mark Rutte, he's a great person, but he's got... And it all began with, if you want to know the truth, Greenland. We want Greenland. They don't want to give it to us. And I said, bye-bye.